Well, I've been planning to open a restaurant for about 15 years, but the more I did in the food world generally, the more friends I got that were chefs, the more series I did for the food channel, the higher the stakes became. I was always going to cook other things as well as steak. It's a joke. So it had to be perfect. It had to be right because you can't just be off the telly and open a restaurant. Folk do that and they're not present there. I mean, even very well-known chefs who I won't name, Gordon Ramsay, aren't always in their kitchens. And I think if I were to put my name to something, I would need to be present in the kitchen front of the house. It would need to be my food because I'm not interested in simply making money. So I actually am interested in trying to action a little bit of change the world of food culture.
And how personal is the menu to you? Is it very much your own dishes, things which you've grown up with, or dishes that you've developed?
It's interesting. I was Monday night this week. I was at a dinner. I was hosting a dinner for the hospitality school at Oxford Brookes University, and the guest of honour was Madhu Jaffrey. And she's become a dear friend of mine. And I said to her, were it not for a conversation I had with her 3 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here now talking. Because the word authenticity was a word I got a little bit hung up on, and I wanted everything to be authentic. And then she stopped and she said, "What is authentic? Is it authentic after the Mughals came to India in the 1700s or before?" And she freed me from the shackles of that kind of creativity. So what we've got on the menu here is real kind of home favourites for me, stuff I've grown up with, like dal makhani, which we have at Temple every Sunday. There's things like venison korma, which my dad, my grandfather, my great-grandfather used to go hunting for deer in Punjab. So venison's a real speciality in our family, a real delicacy. So that's on the menu. Pork vindaloo, which is something it's been a real kind of I've been almost messianic about my desire to change people's opinion about vindaloo, having been to Goa and had the real thing. It's a million miles away. It's further away from the Gorbals to Goa, in terms of the distance on a food journey. And there's things I've invented. There's a few dishes on the menu like bubbling seek and cauliflower cheese, curried cauliflower cheese that I've actually invented. So yeah, I mean the food's pretty much mine, but also I'm working with a great team here, and if I were them, I wouldn't want to be prescribed and told this is what you cook. Yeah. And when you're working with great chefs like we've had, our current head chef, Rui Skinner, and our new head chef who's taken over from Rui, Spencer Barry, brilliant chefs who've got so much expression to make. And again, it's them bringing their eyes, their non-Indian eyes, to a tradition. And as we all know, everyone loves a curry.
Did you think, in some respects, in many Indian restaurants, the menu is almost calcified, whether that's because customers keep demanding the same old traditional old favourites which they know, and was your menu a very deliberate attempt to put some distance between?
It's a very good question. One of the first jobs I had outside the family businesses was working in an Indian restaurant in north of Glasgow. And in those days, a lot of the high street curry houses were a function of extended licensing hours. So the pubs shut, and then I literally took orders from tables. 9 guys came in, 27 pints and 3 chicken pakora, and the chicken pakora went uneaten. And obviously we all know, we're all guilty of having a dirty kebab late at night, or a stupid pizza or whatever. And when you're drunk, you need umami. You can't actually taste anything. That's why you should never cook when you're drunk, because you'll over-season everything. So the offering that was founded out of that experience was about massive flavours, and was about big sweetness, and was about cream, and was, and again, there is a disconnect between what you go out to eat anyway. Like a Sunday roast in the pub on a Sunday is not the Sunday roast your mum makes. Sure. So there is a difference anyway. But for me, this is what we've tried to. Rather than try and rectify errors, I'm trying to show and share my experience of Indian food. And if you come to my house for food, if I cook curry, you have an empty plate in front of you and bowls. You help yourself, and you have a little bit of everything. And what I am trying to change actively is this notion of I order the chicken tikka masala, and that's what I'm eating, because that then gives you one taste experience in the evening. When you come here, we encourage you to order 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 plates of food. And if there's you and I eating, well then we have 8 different taste experiences. The upside of that is a greater exposure, and you're perhaps more prepared to take a risk with something because it hasn't screwed your entire meal if you get it wrong. The downside is if you don't like it, well, it's only cost a £5. You can have something else. So for us, it's to encourage that thing of trying to shuffle people. Also, that kind of the curry by numbers, which I loathe. When you're given a list of meat or fish and a list of curry sauces, are you telling me that's been made in advance? That's made with a pre-prepared sauce.
Yeah, you were saying that in some ways you've designed the menu to make it good for sharing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, of course, you've got a very big craft beer. Are you trying to bring together the kind of communal feeling, the sociability of being in a pub, along with the sharing aspect of the food? So you're trying to combine the two to make it into one, more of a communal experience.
Well, for me, if you go to the very heartland of my kind of Sikh upbringing, on a Sunday we would go to a temple, and after the service, every woman and man would sit or stand together and eat. So the richest woman and the poorest man would share the same meal, the same type of plate, sitting together. And that for me is what food ought to be about. It is about a shared experience. And the vibe, and I was never great at going to bars and pubs when I was younger, because in Glasgow in the 80s it wasn't, they weren't that welcoming, if I'm to be honest. Now that's changed, Glasgow's changed and I've changed. And the way we've actually physically constructed the restaurant, there is a chain in London, not a chain, a group of restaurants called Polpo, run by a dear friend of mine. And I was there looking at sites with him as a maid, early doors. And whenever I went in there, whenever I continue to go in there, you're cheek by jowl with folk, and it's casual dining. And I can't help, also because he was my friend and I wanted to upsell his business, and I knew and believed in the food. I would give folk food off my plate, and then I would see them order it. I'm not expecting people to do that in VDeep, but it's that thing of what have you got there, what you're drinking there, overhearing conversations. It's maybe not the place to come if you want to involve yourself in a secret love tryst, because those 2 tables down will hear you, but
everyone knows where you are. Yeah. And then also it's a very, very contemporary, very striking, very modern design. And again, was this like were you trying to almost deliberately bring in a much younger crowd, a more funky crowd? What was that? It's such a...
Well, it's really interesting. For me, I kind of think, I suppose because I've been broadcasting for such a long time and I've been writing columns in the Light for such a long time, is that I may be deluded, but I really feel like I know my listener and my reader. And I feel I have a respect for them, because ultimately they pay my wages, and on a live show, you're acutely aware of that. So I understand your question, but what's overriding about what we're trying to do here is it's not about trying to attract this or trying to attract that. It's actually, do you know what? Let's do what we really want to do. I really like the design here. I really like the playlists here. I design every playlist, every song that plays in this restaurant, I have put on a playlist. I really like the menu. I like the seats. I like the beer. I think people really engage with honesty and passion, and I think increasingly one only needs to look at our political world, which is it's never felt as if I've never felt we've lived in a more deceitful time. And if you look to see what really works, honesty seems to work. And I just hold my hands up and say, this is not for everyone. I secretly think it is for everyone, but I'm not trying to. This is not a focus, research, market-led product. If you want to come and have passion. Come and have the passion of my bar manager Ali, who you see his beautiful eyes light up when he talks about ale and beer. You watch my general manager Maxine argue with me. I own the place, and she's arguing with me about what wine was on the list. And I say, bring it, sister. If you feel so passionate, let's have that wine on the list.
So it's very much it's your vision, and you think it's down to the personal authenticity, the personal integrity of the brand. It is you. Is that why all your staff are kitted out in Adidas? It's very much your.
One of my dear friends, Richard McClellan's the marketing director and also one of the investors. And I mean, just an amazing man. And it was him that decided we were all going to wear Adidas. I kind of went, he said, because what I see with you is I see Adidas, that's what I see. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah. Right, so everyone's going to wear Adidas is what he said. And again, it's very easy for me to sit here and take the credit for all of this. But without the most amazing team and without the most amazing commitment and the most amazing belief, I wouldn't, really would be a man on my own in an empty restaurant, and nobody wants to see that.
At least you've got all the food to eat yourself.
Well, but again, I think interestingly, I don't know if you feel this, but sometimes I feel very much a product of my time. And I remember, Bishopbriggs, North Glasgow, 1975, 76. We didn't have any money. We got handed down an Adidas tracksuit top, and me and my two brothers fought over who got to wear it. A rota was worked out, which is why I'm so good at rotas at the restaurant. I had to do one for my Adi tracksuit top. But in a world now that's been absolutely subsumed in brand and brand design, to have the clarity of the three stripes, and for it to be something that keeps me straight and keeps me aligned, and I'm one of three brothers, and I think each one of us is a stripe. But that we could do that when we didn't live in a world where there were brands at every corner you turned. So for me, it's it's something about staying power and reinvention and innovation, but still. So today I've got a brand new pair of Addies on, the Berlin Wall, fall of the wall Berlin Wall trainers that 25 years and all that history of Germany in a pair of trainers. And some folk will say it's a pair of trainers, but I'll say it's a way of life.
So tell us about integrating the beer with the food. I understand that you're actually brewing beer specifically to go with
Well, the business plans I've been working on sort of for the decade running up to VDeep opening had always looked at the turnover of beer and the turnover of curry, and not understanding why I hadn't thought to put those together. So for me, the beer side of things was really good, but also, I'd done a bit of consultancy in that kind of food and beverage world, and had learned that Cobra, multi-award winning beer, had spent millions degassing their lager. Now, I'm about, things moving fluidly together. If you need to take the gas out your lager to make it work with curry, perhaps it's a better thing to have. It will save you millions of pounds in degassing your lager. At the same time, I kind of hooked up with the team here and did events here a couple of years ago, and hadn't really understood the craft beer philosophy and offering. Once you got your head around it, you realise that the passion with which these women and men, often sole traders in the middle of nowhere, who've been bankrupt 2 or 3 times and are still going, are creating these beers. It's very similar to the passion I have about my food and my head chef and the team have about the food. So it was a no-brainer to bring it together, and I didn't want to just cynically bring it together. I wanted to put some sort of marriage. As when you create a really good wine list, you put that wine list together with the food you're serving. And the great thing about Indian food is it's virgin territory. We don't actually drink alcohol with Indian food in India. Punjabis drink an awful lot of alcohol before the food and quite a lot after, but seldom with it. So we started pairing and testing things, and I thought, we might find something that goes with something else. But it's been mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing, to the extent that not only have we paired ales and beer with food, we've started using the ales and the beer in the food. And more than that, we're starting to create food to go with the ales and the beer. I mean, the whole thing's become a massive kind of Jimi Hendrix type food and beer hell round, It's been sort of humbling, actually, in a way, without sounding too pompous about it. You sort of have to be confident in your knowledge and your ability to step up and open a restaurant. You do that, and then you realise, God, I don't know anything. I'm learning more now about craft beer than I've learned about anything in the last 10 years. And you're grateful for the capacity to continue learning, and slightly nervous that you might not know nearly as much as you think you know, but hey.
Well, tell us a bit about normally if you're on stage and doing one of your stage shows, you have a certain relationship with the audience. And when you're in the kitchen or you're working in front of house, again, you've got an audience, but the dynamic has changed, the relationship has changed. Is that...
I tell you what I like very much, and it happened last night. There is a status difference between working in the service industry. And I really like that. It's hard sometimes when folk don't, listen, to be honest, we've almost exclusively had a really positive feedback, so I don't want to overstate it. But one or two times when things don't quite go right, it's, I can't be prepared to sit here and have do the interviews and have the adulation and have the reviews in my name without accepting I have to front it up when things don't go well. And I found that really humbling and really I just found it really character building, to be able to, and listen, and I'm talking about the good stuff as well. It's a relief to me. Relief is the overriding emotion when folks say nice things. And also understanding how differently I now perceive, having worked in restaurants since I was 16, you'd think I'd know, but actually I understand the pressure on the kitchen very differently. Equally, like the other night, one of the reviewers said on Facebook, we had Power Ballads on, I have a Power Ballads playlist, I'm really sorry about that. But I'm up on the bench and we're all singing along to Living on a Prayer. And I'm allowed to make an arse of myself. That's sort of what people expect, anyone that knows my work. But it's about fun, Food for me was always about laughter and coming together. And much as I'm really proud and really particular about the food I serve, if you leave here only talking about the food, then I don't think I've done my job right. You should be leaving here talking about the vibe, the atmosphere, the ambience, the conversation you had with your friends. Our food and our drink is really a conduit to bring you together with people you care about, people you love. That's what you should be talking about.
And are there plans to roll out VDeep? I think you're already looking at offering a takeaway or delivery service.
We are, yeah. Once we settle, I've just had a management meeting early this morning, and we had to remind ourselves we've not been open 6 weeks yet. It feels like 6 months sometimes, 6 years at other times, and then 6 minutes sometimes. It's lovely. We're looking at takeaway in the next few weeks, and then we're looking at sites in Glasgow. Dundee's on the list. Considering Aberdeen, we've had interest from a city in Yorkshire, London, Manchester, and the other thing is I went to my business partners with a list of what I thought was an ambitious rollout list. I wanted 7 or 8 places across the UK within the next 3 years. I sat down at the meeting and went through my list, and they said, "What about Paris and New York?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, whatever, let's do it." I think the thing is, if you get the right team in place and you have like-minded souls together, and you are prepared to work hard. For me, I'll be honest with you. I have loved this more than I've loved anything I've done, and I've hated this more than I've hated anything I've done. And every hue and tone between. But there is something incredibly satisfying about running a restaurant, and as we grow and develop, I'm looking forward to doing fewer of the other things and more of this. I want to give this, if we got to a position where this was 75% of my life, it'd be very difficult not to be over the bloody moon about that, Because it pulls together all the things I love: meeting people, conviviality, working with great folk, food, and exceptional craft beer.
And are you still going to? You're going to keep your other career path going for time. Are you doing stuff at the Fringe this year?
Yeah, I've got my new show called Big Mouth Strikes Again, which is funny enough about times I've opened my mouth and what's happened thereafter. So I'm writing that just now. So I'll do that bit at Pleasance, and we've registered VDeep as a Fringe venue. So we're having cooking and comedy lunches here through the festival. Because I think, outside the old town, you wouldn't know there was a festival in Edinburgh. You wouldn't know the biggest arts festival in the world was here.
It doesn't come down to Leith.
No. And I sort of want to, not that I want to bring the festival to Leith, but I want to give the folk of Leith, who've been really fantastic to us. It's difficult. We are, as you'd imagine, a lot of there have been folk that have travelled from all sorts of places and down south to come and eat here, and that's lovely. But this is a local bar and restaurant. This is for the folk of Leith, you know. So I'm, you know, really grateful for the support they've shown us. I mean, we had one woman who I think in our first 15 days had been in 14 times.
That's a stalker. That's not a customer.
Yeah, no, we've spoken to the police about that, and they're coming in now as well. The police. So you know, I just want to, you know, again, you know, we're doing kind of comedy and curry lunches because we've got an open kitchen. I can cook and talk from the past, and then in the evenings we're gonna friends of mine from the circuit, like Ramesh Ranganathan and you know Sean Walsh and Janie Godwin, got that gonna come up and just have some fun. You know, sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. It's just. And I said, do you know what? It gets absolutely rammed up the road.
Yeah.
And, you know, Leith's that bit of Edinburgh that will always be Glasgow to me, so I feel very much at home here.